G'day folks, Costo here once again for the final episode of Bushbeat for this season, episode number 21 to be precise. Coming up, we'll look back on grand finals played last weekend in Newcastle, Wagga, Campbelltown, the mid-north coast of New South Wales, and north of the Tweed in Toowoomba and the Gold Coast. In fact, in this episode, our special guests involved in a couple of those grand finals. Needless to say, they are pretty damn happy, and so they should be. After the break, we'll run through our statewide scoreboard for New South Wales, plus Canberra's George Took Shield. That's next on Bushbeat. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and as per usual, we kick off our New South Wales scoreboard with a look at Newcastle. Last Sunday, it was grand final day at McDonald Jones Stadium. And in the Denton Cup, defending premiers Maitland proved too strong for the Cessnock Goannas. 30 points to 8 the final score. That's now 4 straight titles for the Pickers. And as we said in our news last weekend here on rugbyleague.com, that is a record in Newcastle Rugby League history. And we'll be catching up with the Pickers coach shortly in this episode of Bushbeat. On the mid-north coast, in Group 3, the grand final last Sunday played at Old Bar, the Pirates up against the minor premiers and the defending premiers, the Port Macquarie Sharks. Full-time score, Pirates 24, Sharks 10. Well done to Old Bar. On the Central Coast, we had Toukley Hawks v Kincumber Colts in the decider at Morrie Breen last Saturday. Hawks 12, Colts 18. Congratulations to Kincumber, with FIFO playmaker, that's fly-in, fly-out playmaker, and former New South Wales and Aussie rep Matt Moylan among the heroes for the Colts. His boot proved crucial. 3 tries apiece in that grand final, and Moylan kicked 3 goals to ensure Kincumber would lift the trophy. Congratulations to the Colts. In the Macarthur, Campbelltown Stadium was the place to be last Sunday. The defending premiers Camden going back-to-back with another grand final win, this time 32-26 against Collegians. Congratulations to the Rams and everybody at Kirkham Park. Back on the coast, in Group 7, we had Shellharbour versus Albion Park in last weekend's preliminary final. The beautiful seaside town of Gerringong was the venue for that one. Full-time score, Sharks 34, Eagles 8, which means Shellharbour will now play Kiama in the grand final this weekend. Good luck to both teams in Group 7. To the Riverina now, and Group 9, grand final action last Sunday in Wagga in the City of Crows, and after losing the previous 2 season deciders, Kangaroos were up against Gundagai, and it was the Tigers who prevailed. Gundagai 10-6 over Kangaroos, who would be spitting chips after investing so much coin for the last 3 years, only to come up short. Yes, 3 straight grand final losses for the Glamour Boys in Group 9, and as for the Tigers, that's now 5 titles in 10 years. An amazing run for the boys from the Tucker Box town. I'm not sure if Coach Aaron Gorrell is under contract for next season, but this bloke wins trophies. He's been a successful coach at rep level, including New South Wales country, and surely destined to get a gig in the professional game, either the NRL or perhaps somewhere in the Northern Hemisphere. Regardless, congratulations to Aaron Gorrell and his Gundagai Tigers. In Group 20, we had Waratahs v Hay in the preliminary final last Sunday. That was at Leeton. Tigers 34, Magpies 40. A surprise result, this one, I've got to say, because Hay finished 4th on the table, whereas Waratahs were just 1 win off the minor premiership. So looking ahead in Group 20, the Magpies to take on Darlington Point Colliamberley, DPC, the Chooks, in the grand final. That'll be played this Sunday at Solomad Stadium. Kickoff is 3:20. Finally, the George Took Shield, which is effectively the 2nd division in Canberra and surrounding communities. Bungendore Tigers hosted Harden Hawks in the season finale last Saturday. Tigers 18, Hawks 16. Congratulations to Bungendore. And I should point out that a Zach Smith penalty goal got the Tigers across the line, and a parochial crowd also certainly helped their cause. That's New South Wales done and dusted, plus the GTS. Stick around. Matt Lantry, a very happy coach of the Maitland Pickers, is next on Bushbeat. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and our first guest this week, the man who coached the Maitland Pickers to another Newcastle Rugby League grand final victory last Sunday. Matt Lantry, welcome to Bushbeat, and congratulations, Matt, on that latest success. Unbelievable, 4 on the trot.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. It's been a wonderful ride as the head coach of Maitland over the last 6 years, and to create our own element of history by winning 4 premierships in a row on Sunday was something that was very special and sit with us for a long time.
So what does this make you, the Ivan Cleary of Newcastle Rugby League?
Some people, I won't take any personal credit for it, and obviously, speak in the same breath as Ivan Cleary because he's a champion NRL coach. But some people have spoken about it's a very similar dynasty to what Penrith have gone on in the NRL, just at a lower level of the Newcastle Rugby League competition.
Matt, that makes me want to drill a bit deeper. Does this tell us that you've got a great production line of local talent there in the home of the Pickers in the great city of Maitland?
Yeah, we do. And we're quite envious of the fact that we have 6 feeder clubs that sit underneath our banner, and we work really hard at community engagement and junior development. We actually run our own Pathways to Pickers academy program for all kids within Maitland that are nominated by those 6 affiliates, so that we can just work with both the boys and girls that are looking to forge a pathway in the game. And ideally, we don't want to see them come through and play grade. We'd love to see them go and play, rugby league for the Newcastle Knights through their junior pathway system or other NRL clubs, and ideally come back. But that's not for everyone too. So we need to make sure that we're catering for the next tier of kid down with their development and their understandings of the game, and try and ensure we create that connection nice and early, so they see the Pickers as a pathway once their schoolboy year finishes to generate or to try and progress through, obviously, to grade.
For our audience far and wide, can you paint a picture of what it was like last Sunday at McDonald Jones Stadium, home of the Knights? Obviously not an NRL-type crowd, but a terrific atmosphere, I'm sure. 6,000 plus, plenty coming in from Maitland. Can you just paint that picture in the grand final against Cessnock?
Yeah, Cessnock and Maitland have a significant rivalry, have for a long period of time, going back, well and truly into the 60s and 70s. Coalfields Derby, both rich with history on both sides of the stick. And, to reignite in a grand final for the first time since 2010, Maitland prevailed in that contest as well. And to get the chocolates again on the weekend in front of a very, very healthy crowd of the Newcastle Rugby League, it was a special occasion and quite significant too, because we were fortunate enough to win the reserve grade premiership and the women's premiership as well.
Can you tell me about Brock Lamb and his contribution and his toughness?
Brock's one of the toughest guys I've coached, and I probably didn't realise it until I seen what he's been through this year. He's had to show some real resilience towards some adversity he's had to face in his own personal life. But to be where he's at today as a player, he could slip back into an NRL system pretty comfortably. This year he'd done 2 ACs in the shoulder, 2 rib cartilages, which are painful at the best of times. But he just loves playing footy, and he's a significant contributor week in, week out to our performances, and his performances from June onwards, has been as good as I've seen in the last, 8 or so years that I've been coaching the local competition.
So is it true that he basically got needled up for every game this year, or for the bulk of the season, including the grand final?
Yeah, look, for a portion. There was, where he was needled on a week-to-week basis, and we ensure that we're not obviously putting our players at risk. We've got a very professional doctor who's had previous, experience that's comfortable in injecting the areas that he's needed to get him on the park, and Brock, more importantly, is comfortable with the situation as well. So I just think it shows what lengths he's prepared to go to for his team, and he's one of the best players in the competition, and it showed on the weekend.
Now, this four-peat for the Maitland Pickers, obviously it's a record. It's never happened in the history of the Newcastle Rugby League, which is a tremendous achievement, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, wow, that is some achievement. But you've actually won titles and trophies before that.
Yeah, we have. I guess I'll speak on the four-peat first and foremost, and we're enormously proud of creating that, being that team to first ever achieve it since the inception of the Newcastle Rugby League competition way back in 1910. But, the one thing we can't do is compare errors. This competition up until 1988, when the Newcastle Knights come in, was renowned to, feed the New South Wales Rugby League teams, North Sydney, South Sydney, St George Dragons. But also it was renowned for internationals to be selected from this competition as well. A guy by the name of Terry Penowitz, who's one of Maitland's greatest ever players, played for Australia from Maitland, which, as I said, from comparative errors, it's not anything you can compare, and we're really respectful of that space. Obviously, then post-1988, the competition diminished a little bit because the Knights came in and employed players on a full-time basis. So, but that aside, it's certainly something that we're really proud of achieving, and it's been 6 years of unbelievable success. 2020 we started at the club, and whilst I sit as the head coach role, I've got a wonderful support crew from an assistant coach perspective to support staff to a wonderful and professional committee off the field that helped drive change at Maitland that was required. And when COVID hit in 2020, we opted to roll the dice and gamble and go and play in the Sydney competition called the President's Cup, because there was no New South Wales Cup, a reserve grade competition that sits under the NRL. And in doing that, that elevated us to play on another level for the first time, I think, in Maitland Pickers rugby league history. We had the North Sydney Bears, coached by Jason Taylor at the time, come and compete at Maitland Sports Ground. We took on a host of Sydney teams. We played a Western Division team from out around Dubbo. They formalised as a bit of a rep side, just to give people an opportunity to continue playing rugby league at a really good level. And we were fortunate enough to win the minor premiership that year and go on and beat Glebe 17-16 at Combank Stadium in one of the best football games I've been involved in. And that sort of kick-started things. We went into 2021 and it was a COVID-impacted year. We led the competition by 6 points and didn't get an opportunity to go on and finish the season. But prior to the last couple of years in 22 and 23, the New South Wales Rugby League continued on with the theme of the President's Cup, where they played the Newcastle competition winner up against the Sydney competition winner. And we took on Hills in 2022 and St Mary's Saints in 2023, where we actually went on and won those competitions to hold the trophy up and really claim that we were the best team in New South Wales at an amateur level. So we're really proud of the success that we've created, that's for sure.
Tremendous build-up, certainly, to this four-peat. Everyone wants to know, Matt Lantry, can you keep it going? Can you win 5 next year, 5 on the trot?
Yeah, look, I think we certainly can. The one thing that I'm not surprised by, and I'm certainly encouraged by, is the fact that we've got a playing group there that, they don't sacrifice their standards for anything or anyone. We are a player-driven environment. Everyone is held accountable under the same standards. And, while ever we've got the current leadership group that's in place, I feel like we're well placed to continue on. And part of the reason I say that too is we've retained everyone in our roster, all bar our fullback Dan Langbridge, who heads to Wyong to play with his brother next year. And that retention is so important for us. But in saying that too, we lost 6 players this year out from the 2024 premiership to other clubs locally, one across to the Super League, and we're still able to maintain that momentum and promote from within. I'm a big believer in you need a successful reserve grade if you're going to be a successful first grade team, and our depth is quite healthy, which enables us to ensure that we've got that production line of kid to come through and take on that next man up mentality.
Matt Lantry, it's a great story that you're telling here. We're out of time. I'd like to talk more about this, in fact, till the cows come home. But on behalf of everyone who follows the Maitland Pickers, mate, well done on an amazing run here of success. 4 on the trot, terrific stuff. Great story, as I say, and enjoy the moment, enjoy the off-season.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks very much.
There he is, the 4-time premiership winning coach, 4 on the trot of the Maitland Pickers, Matt Lantry, joining us here on Bushbeat. Stick around. The show continues right after the break. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com, and my next guest out of the mid-north coast of New South Wales, Jordan Worboys. He helped steer Olbar Pirates to premiership glory last weekend in Group 3. Thanks for joining us, Jordan.
No, thanks for having me.
Mate, what a big couple of days it's been for you. You must be on cloud 9, winning that grand final last weekend on home soil. First ever grand final at Olbar, and the mighty Pirates get the chocolates. You lift the trophy. Is this a dream or what?
Yeah, definitely, mate. No, it's very exciting. The town's been abuzz the last couple of days, and we've been soaking it in. It still feels a bit of a dream, so I'm sure the next couple of days and weeks go by, it'll start to hit. But no, I said it was very exciting to host the grand final, but even special to get the victory on the weekend.
And against quality opposition too. Let's not beat around the bush here. Port Macquarie, the Sharks, they're seen as the glamour boys of this competition by a lot of people, whether they like it or not. And they were the defending premiers and the minor premiers. This was no mean feat.
No, they're a quality outfit, the Sharks, and they've proven that the last couple of years. They've been the grand final the last 3 years. They were defending champions last year and, finished on top after the regular season this year. So they were definitely the benchmark all year and, managed to knock them off in the major final and get the 2 weeks off. And, as I said, it was a tough and physical game, but I think, on the weekend we put it all together on the day and, we came away with the victory, which was great.
And what about your role, feeding the scrums, wearing that number 7 jersey? Obviously, a key player, a key contributor to the grand final success. Tell us how this compares to other achievements that you've enjoyed in rugby league as a player.
As I said, I was lucky enough to go down when I was younger and play in Canberra in the 20s and play with North Sydney Bear in the New South Wales Cup. But coming back home to Olbar, it was special the last couple of years, and we were lucky enough to make the grand final my first year back. We unfortunately didn't win it, but 2023 we won the grand final. We got beaten last year, but as I said before, being able to host the grand final in Olbar and get a win and be part of history, it's definitely pretty special and high on the achievements list for sure.
I think one of the things to take away from that grand final was your defence, because in the first half you kept turning up, and much to the frustration of Port Macquarie, you kept them at bay. In fact, I'm pretty sure they didn't score a try until the 51st minute.
Yeah, as they say, defence wins big games, and we had multiple times there early on they were attacking our line. They had a couple of opportunities which we scrambled well to nullify their attack, and as I said, we're holding an outfit like the Sharks for scores for 51 minutes. I think that was the telltale sign of getting the victory after 80 minutes. So it was very pleasing, and we scrapped well, but we put a big emphasis on that, and it was just pleasing to be able to go out and execute that on the day.
Tell us about the finals campaign in general, because that showdown with Port Macquarie to secure that home grand final, that obviously was a massive carrot for you and your teammates. I'm sure that wasn't lost on the club in general, but playing at home, massive advantage going into that grand final last weekend.
100%. Like last year, we got beaten in Golden Point in that match to that first week of the semis, and we lost, and then we went actually to lose the following game. So we put a high emphasis on that first week, and obviously knocking the Sharks off, we got the home semi-final and a week off, which was appreciated. We had a few bumps and bruises and a couple of guys with injuries, so it worked well. Obviously getting the home semi, but getting the bodies a rest, ready to recharge and repeat on grand final day, and I thought that was really beneficial for us this year.
Now, Olbar's a small place, a fast-growing place, no doubt, with development in recent years, but compared to the city of Taree and Port Macquarie and places like that, what was it like? What was the atmosphere like when the Pirates ran out last weekend for that grand final?
Yeah, as you said, compared to other towns, we're relatively small. We're probably a tenth of the size of Port Macquarie. But one thing we do, obviously being a one-club town, and everyone's very loyal and supportive, and our supporters showed out in numbers. But running out in that field, hearing the roar was awesome. And I was only talking to the guys the other day about it. Like, we're yelling out in the field to try and call plays, and they couldn't hear us. So the atmosphere was awesome. And as I said, they turned out in numbers to support us, which was really good.
How do you describe the state of Group 3 at the moment? As you said earlier in our chat, you've been around a bit, playing in different competitions, coming back. What's the state of the game like in Group 3?
I think bush footy is slowly struggling. I guess the emphasis when I came through was everyone just played footy. You work till you're 35, you all played footy. I guess as things change and develop, I guess, the risk of injury as you get older, and that has a bit of a telltale signs on blokes playing. But the competition since I've been back here for the last 4 years has just grown and grown and grown. Like, we've had players, like Jared Mullen, coming back to play this year. Tyrone Roberts-Davis was here a couple of years ago. I think the quality of numbers and quality of actual players here has grown. So I've noticed, like Tay Cochran that was playing with us 2 years ago, he's down about to sign a top 30 deal with the NRL Bulldogs next year. So there's plenty of good players still coming out of here, and I think the competition's actually grown each year, which is really exciting for the area, but also, keeps developing everyone's football around it, playing at a higher standard.
And what about your club? Where do you get your players from? Not everyone obviously lives and works in Olbar. How difficult is it to bring players into town, players that are perhaps seen as imports?
Yeah, well, like growing up, Olbar didn't have footy team. We had one 18s team growing up. There was no juniors, just due to the sheer size of it. Didn't have it physically enough to field a junior team. But last year was the first year we've ever had under sixes right through to 16s. And our juniors are actually the largest number in the whole of Group 3 at the moment. So our committee's actually worked really hard on getting the right people, the coaches, the systems in place to have kids that want to come out here. And as I said, we debuted 4 local juniors this year, which was, awesome. And I think that number will continue to grow. But yeah, like the last couple of years, as you mentioned, to field a team and a quality team, we've had to think outside the box to try and get quality players here to be competitive. And, we had a couple of boys from Papua New Guinea that came over here that were great additions and outside backs a couple of years ago. 2 of them still remain with us now that won the competition again. But yeah, this year we had 4 local juniors that debuted. As I said, I think that number will continue to grow. Our 16s won the premiership this year. Our 18s lost in the grand final. So our juniors are really strong, and that's the way, now we're at a sustainable competitive level. That's the way we look to push in the future and giving them young guys opportunities to see them go on to bigger and better things.
Well, that trophy's in the cabinet for another 12 months. Can you explain to our audience, far and wide, what it's like to be in this part of the world? What are you doing in the off-season? A bit of surfing, a bit of fishing, a bit of boating?
Yeah, all the above. The benefit of where we live here is obviously the coast and enjoying those things. Hopefully, get into a bit of surfing, a bit of touch footy. Enjoy me fishing. Spend some time with the family. But I guess the time gets taken away during the year. But no, as I said, the coast is the lucky thing that we've got up here, our jewel in the crown, I guess, so to speak. So no, plenty of time at the beach, and let the body recover for another year next year to hopefully go back to back.
Well, we wish you well with that, but for the moment, enjoy some family time and that wonderful lifestyle on the mid-north coast of New South Wales.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a special place. It's a quiet town, but no, we wouldn't trade it for the world.
There he is, Jordan Worboys on the line from the Old Bar Pirates, the premiership winning number 7 after they lifted the trophy, of course, in Group 3 last weekend. After the break, we'll check out the Sunshine State. That's next on Bushbeat. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com and our statewide scoreboard now for Queensland. In Toowoomba, the Garden City, last Saturday, the grand final played at the Toowoomba Sports Ground, or Clive Berghofer Stadium, if you like. Gatton versus Wattles. And it was the Hawks lifting the trophy after beating Wattles 28 points to 12. The Warriors led 6-0 early on, but the game belonged to Gatton, with the Hawks eventually taking control, as most observers had expected. A massive year for Gatton. They went through the whole season undefeated, an incredible achievement for the boys from the Lockyer Valley. So congratulations to the Hawks, but also fair play to Wattles. Travis Burns and co have much to be proud of. And on the Gold Coast, the grand final played last Sunday at Southport. The undefeated Burleigh Bears going for 19 wins on the trot this season. But at full time at Owen Park, it was Burleigh 26, Tugan 30. An amazing game from all reports. The Seahawks lineup, including former Dragons, Penrith, Gold Coast and Parramatta hooker Mitch Rain. Congratulations to Rain and the Seahawks in pulling off that upset win against a team that was widely tipped to collect the silverware. Burleigh can certainly hold their heads high. They did everything this year but win the trophy. And let's not forget their Q Cup team is also chasing a premiership this weekend. That is our segment for the Sunshine State. Rather brief, I know, but that happens in late September. We'll have more of Bushbeat right after the break. Welcome back to Bushbeat, and our focus right now, Queensland's Darling Downs, and more precisely Toowoomba, the Garden City of Toowoomba, where the Gatton Hawks cleaned up last weekend. That is exactly where we're going right now, into the Food Bowl, that is the Lockyer Valley, less than 100 clicks to the west of Brisbane, where I'm joined by Kenny Hughes. Kenny is the president of the Gatton Hawks. Kenny, great to have you on Bushbeat. And well done on your grand final success. How was that last weekend in Toowoomba?
Oh, firstly, g'day, Costo. It was awesome, mate. As you appreciate, what a sensational feeling. To go back to back and be able to get into that and actually watch the whole community get behind you, the club, the team, the people from the community, the sponsors, the supporters, just absolutely everybody who contributes to our game in our area, in our region. Sensational.
Well, and quite amazing, because many teams can say they had a great season, but to go through and not lose a game in a whole season, a remarkable achievement, and I'm sure not lost on you, your coach, John Flint, and the playing group and your supporter base?
Absolutely not lost. It's very tough to win a premiership, as everyone will attest to, but to win it, go undefeated, to win the Madsen Rasmussen, which is the mid-season one against the top two teams, minor premiers, to actually pick up a couple of special awards along the way with Player of the Year, Coach of the Year. It's just like, how do you top a year like that, honestly?
Let's talk about the grand final last weekend. How many people emptied out of Gatton and went up the range for this one?
All of them, mate. No, we had a couple of buses that the Lockyer Council were very nice and helping to sponsor and support the club by putting on a couple of buses for us, which got a lot of our spectators up there safely up the hill and got them into the park and got them to enjoy sitting beside watching the team that they've supported all year and have watched us go around and helped us get there, basically, because it takes the whole community to get there. And, it really does. And we're a small community inside a big competition. So with that in mind, we just absolutely loved it. And it wasn't lost on us that the faithful were there. And it was great to have that many people up there, mate, I tell you.
Well, my spies tell me, and I've got some pretty good sources here, that your club has got a great history in recruiting well out of Brisbane. And I dare say you, as the big kahuna, your job is obviously to go and get the sponsorship and the money to get those players and to complement the local juniors that keep coming through the Gatton Hawk system.
Yeah, look, I think there's the one thing we do is we do promote our own here, and we do bring them through the ranks. And the coach, John Flint, the coaching staff, it is all about as many local bodies as you can. But yes, we have people come out, but we don't go and actively recruit anybody that doesn't want to be here. Someone comes to play, they bring a friend with them, they talk about the club. The next couple of months later, we've got someone else and someone else and someone else. So the recruiting is not hard for us, if you know what I mean. It is a guy is coming here to play. He loves his football. I've known a lot of people before when I was in another area. They come here because they're playing alongside their mates and in this beautiful, little Lockyer Valley and a great competition. And it's truly a very, very good competition.
Now, what about your accent? It's not a Lockyer Valley accent, is it?
I'm trying to change the accent, mate. They're catching up. No. I'm as you know, I'm a Kiwi boy, born and raised in New Zealand. Come over here about 17 years ago. With my wife and my family and my young fella Joel, who's in the team that's playing at Gatton. He's also playing the Western Clydesdales. Come over here for his rugby league when he's a young fella, and we just loved the place and brought into the whole culture, community and everything. And yeah, we're here to stay.
Well, congratulations on a tremendous season, going through undefeated, and I believe you've got the super coach right next to you, John Flint.
Look, thank you very much, Costo. I do have the super coach right here, and I'll hand him over to you, mate.
Good on you, Kenny. That's Kenny Hughes, the club president. John Flint, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Hello, Coach Flint.
How are you, bud?
Mate, not as good as you would have been last weekend. You must have been pinching yourself in charge of this team that cleaned up the Madsen Rasmussen, which is a trophy steeped in history, of course, in Toowoomba Rugby League circles, and then to lift the premiership trophy. Does it get any better than that, John?
Oh, mate, yeah, it was a great lead up and a great finish, mate. And yeah, at the moment, mate, to answer your question, it probably doesn't get any better. They've had a great finish, and just couldn't be prouder of them.
I saw your counterpart on the local TV post-match, Travis Burns, the former NRL player. He was very gracious in defeat as the coach of Wattles. They were certainly competitive on the day, but that class of the Gatton Hawks came to the fore, and obviously your blokes, they were on a mission. They wanted to lift that trophy and go through undefeated. They must have been so motivated, revved up before that game.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, mate. And that whole thing, like we had the week off, and that really boosted everything. They got all our niggles out of the way. They were definitely trained well all week, and just on Travi, mate, he's been that all year, mate. He's been unreal. Him and I have got a very close relationship, and we chatted right up until grand final day. We even had a bloody bit of a tackle session against each other in the hallway of the grand final itself. So, mate, I have the utmost respect for the man, and he's done an excellent job down there.
Tell me about the heroes for the Gatton Hawks. I'm sure you're going to say there were heroes right across the park, but I'm sure it's fair for you to single out a couple of blokes that really stepped it up to make sure that you lifted that trophy last weekend.
Yeah, probably. There's like you said, mate. There is a lot of them, but individually, like the stories, like the James Robinson, mate. They come back from a broken neck, round 11.
A broken neck.
Yeah, so in the round 11 Rasmussen mid-season grand final, Robbo actually broke his vertebrae in his neck. He actually had a punctured lung, and he spent 2 weeks in hospital. So he was touch and go, and for him to come back and to play the last 2 games and to play that grand final, mate, that to me was very inspirational for a young man to push through that, and that was unreal. And that's the kind of, I spoke to Ben Haviland and I spoke to Luke Self, and I said, look, you boys are the captains and you got a lot of responsibility, but Robbo's their leader, so he really just put his hand up and said, follow me, boys, and that was fantastic. It was really good to watch. Well,
Robbo deserves a medal of valour in rugby league circles anyway, because this sounds like it's Shane Webke like, John Sattler like.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, it was like I said. We watched video after video of him sitting in bed, bedridden, couldn't move in hospital for 2 weeks, and then he slowly made his way back and did all the protocols and got healthy and got all the approvals done, and again played himself into a grand final and was just unreal to watch. It was fantastic.
Do the players themselves, does the playing group realise the significance of going through the season in a competition which is so steeped in history in Toowoomba, going through undefeated? Do the players realise the significance of their achievement?
I think on reflection, it's sinking in. Like we did sort of breach on it. We did talk about it briefly as the games came and as the weeks went by and that sort of stuff. But our main focus was obviously winning first, and then our defensive record was what we hung our hat on. And but then as the season sort of evolved, and then we sort of started to realise, well, this could be going down in history. And then there was a lot of old boys were trying to figure out when it happened before, and there wasn't much information on it. So it really came to the forefront in the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, where the boys are like, this is going to be unreal if we can make this happen. So we really put the foot down then in the last bit of the season to make sure it did happen.
Well, John, we might leave it there. I'm not sure if you're having a quiet beer with your club president, Kenny Hughes, but we might pull it up there and again salute you and your great achievement this year as the coach of the Gatton Hawks. Well played, well done.
No worries, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
There he is, the premiership winning coach of the undefeated Gatton Hawks, John Flint, and earlier Kenny Hughes, the club president. 2 blokes that I'm sure will be basking in the glory of that premiership success, and rightly so. Stay with us. We'll have more of Bushbeat right after the break. Welcome back to Bushbeat and our final guest for our final episode for 2025. And he comes out of the Gold Coast. This bloke was a central figure in Costigan's upset grand final win last weekend. Coach Will Johnstone. Welcome to Bushbeat, Will, and congratulations on your latest success on the Goldie.
Thanks for having us on, Costo.
Back-to-back, mate. How's that? It sits pretty comfortably, I would have thought.
Yeah, back-to-back. We're only just getting over the celebrations today. Back-to-back premiers. First time in our club's history that we've gone back-to-back. So, we're pretty excited, and the people of Costigan are pretty pumped up.
And I've got to say, this was a real turn-up for the books. Not something that we talk about a lot on the program, and that's betting, but your opposition, Burleigh, they must have been unbackable favourites for this. I think they were going for, 19 on the trot, looking to finish an undefeated season with the silverware, but it wasn't to be.
That's right. Yeah, I reckon if there was a market for them, they were probably about $1.01 going into the Saturday game. But, like I said to anyone who would ask me, I was very confident in our side and very confident in the team that we had on the paddock, and I knew very well that we could knock those blokes off come Saturday.
Tell us about the build-up to the game, because all the talk would have been about Burleigh lifting the trophy, going through the motions. After all, they'd cleaned up, smashed every team in front of them, or at least beat them during the season proper, including the finals. And what were you thinking? What were you telling your players? You said to me before we came on air, you were supremely confident, but what about everybody else in the camp at Costigan?
Yeah, I really was. I mean it when I say that I was really confident. I think our side that we had in this year's grand final was better than the side that we had the year previously when we won. And I know that Burleigh, they would have been very confident because they hadn't lost all year and they've got a really good squad as well. But I just told our boys that as long as we go out there and put our best performance on the paddock, that I knew that we could beat them. Every game we'd had with them this year had been really close. They had never really blown us away, and we had opportunities to beat them throughout the year. And we just got a couple of little things wrong, and I just knew that if we showed up and we played our best footy, we were going to come away with the chockies, and that's exactly what happened on Saturday.
And the game very much in the balance. In fact, it could have gone either way right up until the final whistle.
Yeah, really close game, very back and forth. I think if you're at the ground, you got your money's worth, that's for sure, because, it was kind of Burleigh scored first, then we hit back, and then Burleigh scored just before half-time, and then we came out and got one. It was really back and forth, and then we kind of hit the front. Probably about 15 minutes to go, we're up by 10, and I still wasn't feeling out of the water yet, and when my little mate Mitch Rain crossed from the scrum to put us up again, I felt like we were going to get there. That was late in the game, and that was kind of the ceiling point for me.
I'll come to Mitch Rain in a moment, but what about yourself? Last year you were captain coach, this year just coach, but you did come off the bench and you actually did play some games this year, but not in the grand final.
Yeah, funny old year. I kind of planned on hanging out the boots after last year. I thought, what a great way to go out. First year coaching, captain coach, and won the premiership. So I hung them up. But it was we had a fair bit of adversity this year. We had lots of injuries. Halfway through the year, there was a point where we were 15 or 16 guys from our A grade squad were out either injured or suspended, and we had to forfeit our reserve grade because we didn't have enough players. And I made a joke. Well, not a joke, but I was talking to one of the boys after the game the other night and said, it was only 7 weeks before the grand final. We had 6 blokes at training and we were playing kick tennis. And then not 6 weeks later, we win the grand final. So, look, we had to do it tough, and we had to be pretty resilient because we had to overcome a lot of adversity. But it was exciting for me to be able to put the boots back on and show that I could still do it, and get the chance to play with some really great players again this year. And I'm really proud of the group of blokes that we had there, and it's something that we probably will never forget for the rest of our lives, that group of players that we had this year, because it was pretty special to knock Burleigh off after they'd won 19 games in a row, and we got them on the day.
Let's talk about Mitch Rain. So much experience at the highest level. How significant was his presence? Yeah.
Mitchell, if anyone knows him, he's one of the greatest blokes I've ever met in my life. He's a champion guy to be around, but getting him on board this year for our footy was just incredible. He is extremely fit. He's extremely intelligent. He's obviously got so much experience, 200-odd games in the NRL, and the leadership that he brought to our group, you can't beat that. He was, probably our player of the year. We haven't done our awards yet, but, close to our player of the year with how good he was week in, week out. I think he only missed one game all year, and he was really pumped himself to be back on the paddock and playing again after a few years off. And grand final day, he was the player of the match, and both him and Tyrone, they were outstanding for us. And for me, an absolute pleasure to coach them. Great guys. I'll consider them great friends of mine now moving forward for the rest of my life.
Now, Tyrone, we're talking about who here, aren't we?
Yeah, the Pouch, Tyrone Peachy.
Now, Tyrone Peachy, that's a great backstory to your premiership success, your latest success with Costigan Seahawks. Tell us about his arrival at Betty Diamond, because Little Bird tells me he was, going to lace up the boots for Burleigh Bears, in the Queensland Cup, and all of a sudden, the Costigan Seahawks coach decided to have a quiet drink and a catch up, and something very differently happened.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, so Peachy, he moved back here. So he was still playing at Penrith last year, and he's had the last couple of years at Penrith, and obviously we all know about the success that Penrith have had in the NRL, and he was hanging up the boots from playing in the NRL. He moved back to the Goldie where with him and his family, he's got a house here, and he was signed up to play with Burleigh Bears in the Queensland Cup, and myself and him just decided to go for a quiet beer down at the Costigan Leagues Club one afternoon, and one beer led to two, and two beers led to three, and I managed to convince him to come and play with us at Costigan. And for me, I'm very lucky I did, because without getting Tyrone, I wouldn't have got Mitchie, and it was Peachy who kind of got Rainey over the line for me, and the rest is history. And Peach probably got a little bit of one back on Burley over the weekend after, looking like he was going to play for them, and then to knock them off in the grand final for us. It was probably bittersweet for them, but awesome for me and awesome for the Pouch and him and Rainey to play together as well. That was something they really wanted to do, was to lace up the boots together. They're great mates, and yeah, what a way to finish the year. Hopefully they're back again with me next year. I really hope.
Now, Will, before we say bye-bye, I need to ask you this. The people that came through the turnstiles for that grand final included your father, the legendary Billy Johnstone, whom I had the pleasure of working alongside many moons ago at Canterbury Bankstown. In fact, he got me up early, very early, at a pre-season camp at Lennox Head. We won't talk about that on the show, but what I want to talk about before we
still got scars. Probably.
I haven't forgotten. He thought I was in the playing squad for some reason. But anyway, I want to ask you about the old man, and please give him our love and our best wishes. They tell me He didn't drive to Owen Park, Southport. He could have taken public transport, but he had another idea to come and watch his son play, or at least his son coach in this grand final. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's not Billy's style. So anyone who knows Billy Johnstone, he's a bit of a lunatic with regards to his physical fitness, and always has been. And I spoke to him during the week and said, "Yeah, Dad, the grand final's on Saturday. It's up at Owen Park, Southport. Obviously, it's a long way away from where you live. I'll organise you for a lift to come up." And he said, "Nah, don't worry about it, Will. I'll ride me push bike." And I went, "What do you mean you'll ride your push bike? It's 20 odd K to get up there, and we're playing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It'll be dark riding home. I assume you want to have a beer." And he said, "Yep, no worries. I'll ride me push bike. I'll have a couple of beers and I'll ride home." So that's exactly what he did. He rode his push bike up and went through, like you say, the turnstiles, paid his $7 and probably had 4 or 5 beers and jumped back on his push bike and rode home.
Unbelievable.
Like only Billy Johnstone can.
Yeah, well, look, give him our best wishes. It was worth the effort. I'm sure he wouldn't have missed it for quids, and give him our love, as I say, and best wishes. And again, congratulations on your latest success. Terrific story, a beautiful story for you personally and your family, and also, obviously, the Costigan Seahawks.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
There he is, Will Johnstone from the Gold Coast Premiers, the Costigan Seahawks, speaking to us here on Bushbeat on rugbyleague.com. We'll wrap up our final show for the season right after the break. Welcome back to Bushbeat here on rugbyleague.com. Now, before we say goodbye for 2025, some important housekeeping. Firstly, a big thank you to my good friend and colleague Steve Mascord in London for his help in getting Bushbeat to air each and every week. Thanks also to those people who joined me on the show during the season. We caught up with so many people face-to-face in places like Wagga, Temora, Kiama, Harden, Forbes, Newcastle, Corindai, Narrabri, Barcaldine, Winton, Mount Isa, Moranbah, Proserpine, and on it goes. Plus plenty of others over the phone in places like Townsville, the Capricorn Coast, the New England, Canberra, Sydney Southwest, and more. And thanks to you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed our showcase of country rugby league each and every week here on rugbyleague.com. Don't forget you can follow us on social media, rugbyleague.com, now on various platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube. Give us a follow, give us a like. Next week in this time slot, if all goes to plan, a brand new show, Costo's World of Rugby League. Our focus, rugby league around the world, sometimes in places far away, encompassing different cultures across different continents. That's Costo's World of Rugby League, which, touch wood, starts next week here on rugbyleague.com. For now, this is Costo signing off on Bushbeat for 2025. Stick around, the news is next.